Hello and welcome to the Scuttlebutt. I'm your host, Brock Briggs, and today I'm speaking with Will Buck Bolyard. Will is the author of Sober Man's Thoughts and co-founder of Dirtbag magazine. We start the conversation off with what he's most proud of in life and go on to explore both his writing and writing process, why the world doesn't need more war poetry books, and how to lead junior troops into gunfights and being able to talk about poetry with them, and much more. This conversation is extremely raw and in your face, just the way we like it here. Buck isn't afraid to tell it like it is, and I've learned a lot from reading his work and getting to know him over the past few weeks. I respect his pursuit of the craft of writing and lack of concern for others' approval. Please enjoy this conversation with Buck. One of the first things that I wanted to ask you, because I think it really gets at the heart of what's important to you, is what is something that you're the most proud of, you think, in your life?
Hmm. Honestly, it's gonna sound like super stereotypical, but I'm not. I'm probably the most proud of the book I just recently finished, Demons of the Taillights, which will be out this year, because I did a very different approach with that one than I did my other books. Um, like my military accomplishments are just my military accomplishments. Like it's just badges and schools and stuff like that. It doesn't really mean too much of a shit to me. Um, it was just a job, but like with writing my second book, I felt like I became extremely disciplined as a writer, and I really grew as a writer from writing my first book, Sober Man's Thoughts. And Sober Man's Thoughts was mostly, it's weird because it's more of like a journal essentially that I wrote, and like it was very alcohol fueled. I don't remember much of writing that book, and I feel like it kind of messed with my writing a lot. And with my next one, I knew I wanted to go into it sober. I didn't want to write drunk anymore. And it's funny because I kind of designed this book to look like a journal, but it's not. It's almost like a fictional poetry book, which is the way I kind of wanted to go with it. And once I finished it, it was for the first time in my whole life, I was actually extremely proud of my writing. And I knew it was good and I knew it was worth something. Because a lot of writers you'll talk to, they hate their work, or a lot of guys do, just because it's super weird when your book first comes out, people receive it, and you get reviews, and one person likes it, another person doesn't like it, and it just kind of messes with the whole thing. But with this one, especially working with Keith and Tyler, like you have a good window from when you finish your book until it comes out. And with this one, I've had enough time. I finished it last May, did some edits, did some tweaking, submitted it in December, and now we're doing like cover design and stuff like that. And now I'm like looking back on it, I'm like, damn, I'm super proud of this book. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of. And then my next book will probably be the next one. So
What do you think about this book makes you more proud of it than the first one? Does it have to do with the stimulation or maybe the fuel that you use to kind of like power the first book? Is it just like getting the first one out of the way? You've talked in a couple of interviews about how, and kind of my perception of what your first book was, it seemed like a very cathartic type process. And you've said that you can now feel like you can write other things now that you kind of like got that internal processing out of the way. Do you think that does that resonate? Does that sound accurate?
yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference between the second one and the first one is uh, with the first one, I didn't plan on writing a book. I didn't want to be a professional writer. I just wrote to just make myself feel better. It was more therapeutic. And I had no real design to Soberman's Thoughts. Soberman's Thoughts was just whatever I had was there on the paper. You know, it was chronological and that's how I ordered the poems. I still had some thought behind it, but it wasn't thought and planned out. And with Demons of the Taillights, it all stemmed from like a small period of my life written over a year, and I was like, is this going to be nonfiction? Is it going to be like a project piece? And eventually, what I came down with after a lot of thinking was that I just wanted it to be a fictional poetry journal. Essentially, it's kind of like a song lyrics journal. It's kind of like just a story told behind it. There's some fiction pieces in there. There's some nonfiction pieces, and like I just like the whole feel of it all because it's where I felt like I truly was a writer for the first time in my life. The first time anybody can write a single book. Anyone can do it. It's not hard, especially a poetry book. A poetry book is the easiest thing in the world to create. Fiction's a lot harder. Storytelling's a lot harder. So if you can kind of find a happy medium between that, and I've said it before, I feel like it's the natural progression of writing. is that like everybody starts out writing poetry if they want to be a professional writer, and then you kind of move into articles. Everybody tries out their little toe in journalism, and I still like doing journalism. It's just not my focus. But then you move into short stories, and then you kindly, once you've mastered that craft, where you feel like you kindly have developed your own way of storytelling, then you have enough to tackle a novel. And I feel like this was the pinnacle point in my career where I changed from just being someone who wrote a single book to being a professional writer.
You got more than one act now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I love that. How do you think that the feedback that you got from that first book influenced or maybe didn't influence this next book?
I think I cared more about the feedback with the first one because that was my debut. Everybody cares about, because like that's going to be what you're known for, especially because I was a nobody when I first came out. Keith and Tyler had no idea who I was. Nobody had no idea who I was. I was just a random dude on the internet. And then I really put it all out there with Soberman's Thoughts, and then now people know who I am a little bit. I have a little bit of backing behind me. So I wanted this to be different because I didn't want this to be Soberman's Thoughts Part 2. And
Mhm.
when I got the reviews, the only reviews that ever bothered me were, as a veteran, this is just drunk ramblings. Like that one pissed me off like a lot. Cause like I was like, you didn't even care. You didn't even actually dive into the book. You just judged it because it wouldn't have skulls and nods on the front. So with this one, I went into there. I didn't write it for anybody else. And I didn't write the first one for anybody else, but I cared what people thought. And with this one, I know I do not give a rat's ass what people think about it. This could sell one single copy or 5,000 copies, and I wouldn't give a fuck, just because it's just something I want to create. And I think it's something people want to enjoy. And if they don't, I don't care. So
What do you think it takes to get past that level of working on something and caring about the reception of it to not caring about it? Because that's for anybody that's in any sort of creative endeavor, you feel that maybe even before you start, maybe it's after you start a little bit, you start to maybe get some negative feedback. How do you get over that hump and kind of just like brush that away so that you can keep focusing on your craft?
I feel like that's the single thing that's going to decide if you're going to be a professional writer or not. I know a lot of people who have written one book and then quit writing because it didn't sell as many copies as they wanted. You have to go in with the attitude that like, okay, this one didn't sell as many copies as I wanted. I'm going to make sure the next one does. And then I think it just takes a little bit of personal growth. And honestly, the bad reviews help. I love a bad review because makes me like self-reflect. Like maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. Like you kind of really, it made me sit and like think about it for the next couple days. And I was finishing my second book at the time when I started to get some bad reviews. And then yeah, I think the bad reviews helped me more than a good review ever will. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way. It's kind of stereotypical, but like the hardest critiques ever to look at are in the mirror yourself and at your writing. And I was like, am I going to be known as just this drunk writer the rest of my life, or am I actually going to be a writer? So I took a step back and I changed it.
Do you think that there's a certain expectation of veteran or maybe service member writers? You said something earlier about somebody thinking that there should have been like a skull on it. What did you mean by that?
I feel like I think it's more of an audience thing. I feel like a lot of people, with how Dead Reckoning started back in the past, it was mostly, I think people expected war poetry. War poetry is like a big, easy term that everybody throws out all the time. And you look at the greats like Rudyard Kipling, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien did some like a little bit of war poetry. I feel like that was just something. I mean, David Rose, Leo Jenkins, that was like real war poetry. I feel like that's what the veteran culture kind of just looked at for every poetry book after that for Dead Reckoning Collective. And I just I didn't want to go into that. I never even told people I was in the military for a long time. People just thought I was just some veteran, and it turns out I'm still on active duty and have been on active duty ever since I wrote this book. So I think it's just, I feel like people still want a war story because of where we're at in the global war on terror. And the global war on terror was still going on when I finished my first book. And people are always just going to want that little bit of story. It's action, it's kind of cool, it's an adventure. But I feel like we owe it to ourselves as veterans to just be a little better. Like, if we are going to be the writers we want to be and we want to be accepted and actually bridge the gap of the civilian culture and be not just a veteran writer, but just be a writer and be able to mesh in and build that, say again, build that gap, you're just gonna have to stop and maybe write something different. You can still tell a war story. I mean, Luke Ryan did it great with his novel. He based his military experience on like his personal experience and wrote a great fiction novel, which I think set him apart from every other writer that they had in Dead Reckoning. And I hate to say it, but maybe still have.
Do you think that continuing to do or like publish a lot of those like war poetry, as you call them, do you think that that perpetuates like an image of veteran writers, quote unquote, and like
Oh,
maybe gets in the
100%.
way of it?
Oh, 100% it gets in the way of it. Because
You sound
if
like
you
you're on
keep
the edge of a big tear here, and I'm trying to just pull back the layers. I'm like, he's gonna go let rip here in a second. Like,
I it's hard for me to say because I mean I'm friends with so many people in the community, but and people know they've met me and I'm pretty outspoken on how I feel about things, but I feel like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot every single fucking time another war poetry book comes fucking out. Has it done some great things? Yes, 100%. Are there some great war poetry books out there? 100%. But if you're ever proud of that, you're never going to grow as a writer, and you're not a writer. You're just a dude who wrote a poetry book, in my opinion. And that might be wrong, and I don't care.
I love that unashamed feeling. Like that's and as somebody in the space, like you've got the juice to make a comment about it.
Yeah.
What do you think that they should be doing? Or like maybe is it just as much as kind of coming back for the second act? Like what
I
you're doing here?
Yeah, I think. Well, I never went into this trying to tell war stories, and I do have a novel that I plan on writing about the war, but I'm not going to publish that till like 10 years from now, just because one, marketing. If you publish any war book right now, it's just going to be another war book. I mean, all the best Vietnam novels were ever written many years after the Vietnam War. And honestly, it'll probably be the last book I ever write, just because it'll be my final piece that I can say, and then I can just walk away and I don't know, fish and drink in the beach. I don't care. But I feel like everybody just needs to maybe push their boundaries, test their limits a little bit. Because if you keep talking about something that caused you a significant incident in your life, whether it be war, whether it be your military service, whether it was getting out, your transition, I feel like if you keep harping on it, you could only beat a dead horse so many fucking times until people are like, "Yo, are we doing anything else, or is this going to be the same thing forever?" Like I feel like we're at a really big turning point in the veteran writing community where we need to start making a change before we set the pattern and lay the bricks that are going to make us real writers, or we're just going to be some other fucking veteran crying about the war, and it's not cool. So it's kind of lame, in my opinion. So
You just mentioned or we're talking about marketing, and I would imagine that kind of releasing a book into this environment, there's, like you said, lots of those, and there's a certain timeliness and kind of approach that you've obviously thought about. What has been your strategy, if you've had one, to the marketing of your books generally?
so for my first book, I didn't really have any plan to mark because I didn't know you don't know what you're doing until you do it. Superman's Thoughts had no idea what I was doing. Keith and Tyler helped me out a lot. They showed me the ropes. They explained a lot of things to me. There's a lot of things behind the scene that a lot of people don't see, and I feel like marketing is it's the lamest thing to do to be a writer, because at the end of the day, I'm not a salesman. I'm a writer. So, but if you want to be successful in this industry and you want to keep doing it, making it for a living, because I'm never going to go back to working a real job a day in my life. You have to learn marketing. So you kind of have to figure out, like, you have to figure out what your brand is. And I hate fucking saying that because that's so fucking lame. But you kind of have to figure out who you want to be as a writer, because a writer is half the product to itself. Hemingway sold so many books because he was a very interesting person. His writing is okay. I mean, he's great, I will say, but there's a lot of books I read. I read A Movable Feast and I was like, this is absolute dog shit. This is a weird book. Like, you're talking about fucking F. Scott Fitzgerald's penis for like fucking half a chapter. That's kind of weird to me, man. Like, but A Farewell to Arms is a true, absolute masterpiece. It's my favorite Hemingway book. Do I feel like An Old Man in the Sea should have won the Pulitzer Prize? Probably not. But at that point, he's like an old man, and it is a very great self-reflection. And I feel like with Cormac McCarthy, he's successful because he's a really great writer. And I feel like he's also really successful because he's like this almost like folk being. There's not a lot, you don't really know a whole lot about the guy. He goes, spins, and be super reclusive. Like, you have to think about what people think of is a writer but you also have to be yourself. If you're just trying to act like a writer to sell books, then you're dumb. One, you're the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But just stay true to who you are, and at the same time, just be a good guy, and that'll help sell books a lot. And one thing I've always found with marketing is, just really pitch your product and sell it. If you're able to sell your book, my philosophy is on it. If I could sell my book to an art student and some liberal arts college, then I'm probably doing something pretty damn good. And I've sold more books on the street by just talking to people here and there than I have anywhere on social media. So
It sounds like you've taken a really like one-to-one approach, and you've even mentioned in another interview, like selling books at the bar or just by like striking up conversations, talking to people. Has that been like the most effective thing for you that you found, like being able to talk about it
I don't know if
one-on-one?
it's most effective, but it's more rewarding that way, I think. And we're at a day and age where you could buy a book anywhere in the world. I've sold a book in Zion National Park on a hike. I've sold a book in a bar in New York City. I've sold books set like on base, just walking around, and I think it's just more rewarding. I mean, probably I don't know how many books I've sold because I don't want to ask. Um, one, because it might hurt my ego, and two, and two, I just feel like if you're in it for the numbers game, like I mean, you have to make a living no matter what. But if you're in it for the numbers, then you're never going to be a good writer. You might not. No one might buy your books until you're dead. So might as well enjoy the ride.
Well, and I feel like if you can set out to write a book, maybe more so for a personal process and the education and experience that you'll get from writing the book, and if you sell products, sell books, then that's just a cherry on top.
Yeah.
But it seems like I know several people who have writing backgrounds and really shy away from like no major publishers have reached out to me. It's like, well,
They're not going to. You have to reach out to them.
exactly, and then that kind of bridges to my next question. I was curious if you had any thoughts about self-publishing versus going with a larger publisher, any benefits or pros or cons to both?
So I always tell people I steer people away from self-publishing a lot. Just because I feel like one, it validates you as a writer. If you get published by a publishing company, whether it be HarperCollins or Dead Reckoning Collective, you have somebody who said, your stuff is good, I want to sell it, and they're going to back you. And it's not just one person involved, it's you have the backing of a company now. So other people are helping sell your books as well. Self-publishing, you might make a little bit more dollars on the back end, but like who cares? So I feel like and when I see a self-published book, I'm like, oh, okay, he thought it was good. If I see a book written by and it has a publisher, whether it be an indie publisher or whatever, then it means that other people thought it was also good.
At
And it
least
helps
two
get
people thought it was good, the
at
writer
least
and
two
at least
people.
one person.
Yeah. So, and it's a big commitment for a publishing house to sign on an author, because you're also, when you sign on an author, you're signing on his problems. If that motherfucker goes and commits a heinous crime, you thought that guy was a good guy and you vouch for him. So it's a lot of commitment on them, and it's a hard job to do. I can never do it. I can never be a publisher because I don't think anybody would like the books I like, but and also it's not my job. I'm a writer. It's completely different. And but I'll always probably write for Dead Reckoning Collective no matter what, whether it just be poetry or whether it's all my books. It's loyalty at that end. Like these guys went out on a limb for a nobody, took me under their wing and showed me how to be a writer and make a living doing it. So if I kind of was to turn my back on them, then I'm kind of a fucking cocksucker. Like what kind of fucking asshole am I? Like what, I want to be
Yeah.
a sellout? Like no, I like being an indie fucking working with an indie publishing company because it's a very personal relationship. And I know dudes who've worked for big publishing houses and they're like, I have no idea what's going on with my book. They change everything. It is what it is. And I have a lot of control over that stuff. But Douglas Hoover, he's self-published and he's very successful in it. But he's also a lot more educated than I am on the process. And I think he would rather just work with himself and say fuck you to everybody else. And I respect that. He's probably the most successful self-published author I personally know. And he probably will continue to be.
Do you think that there's anything to, if you choose to go the self-publishing route, a certain amount of authority maybe that whether that's real authority or not, but authority that's given to you once you have a book, even if you do self-publish, like having a physical thing saying, hey, I wrote this.
Uh, Man, honestly, I think publishing any book is great, but if you self-publish it, then any fucking idiot can I could self-publish a single page today if I wanted to. Just go on Amazon, click it away, throw it in, boom, it's on Amazon. It'll be there in like 2 days. Not that hard. But are there some really great self-published books? I feel like you need to really take a step back and be like, is what I'm trying to say with this book actually fucking important? Eddie Black, another really close writer friend of mine, he, publishes all his stuff through like Barnes and Noble, but he does a lot of his own stuff. He reaches out, gets his cover designs, does all that. It's been like, at that point, like maybe big publishers aren't going to touch you for a while, so it's better to at least have something in the cradle, and then you could market yourself to bigger publishing houses later down the road when you have like a novel to publish, because let's be real, a big publishing house isn't going to touch you until you have a novel, because that's what sells, you know? So for Eddie, me and him are both working on novels right now. And me and him have both said all the time, we're like, yeah, now that we have like something that people were like, oh, you're an actual writer, like now we'll probably look at you. Harper's Collins and all these other big publishing companies will like look at you a little better. So it's a catch 22. And like the sad thing is there's no quality control if you self-publish. You can be fucking really bad writer and self-publish a book. I've seen 1,000 of them.
Where do you think that maybe aspiring authors or maybe new authors ought to draw the line between like getting something done actually versus like kicking the can down the road? Because that's something that I've seen in the self-publishing world is it allows I'm not educated enough to like probably have an intelligent conversation about self-publishing versus going with a
Neither am I,
traditional
man.
publishing house.
It's just my personal opinion.
But I also see self-publishing as a way for maybe if you have an idea for a book and you get rejected from everybody, maybe that is the way that people can actually kind of start doing something. Because
Yeah.
that's one of a big frustration or maybe pet peeve of mine is people saying that they can't do something because of some other party that is completely unaffiliated,
Yeah. And
or
I mean,
making
I'm not
excuses for it.
against self-publishing. I'm really not. I just don't do it because I would rather have the backing of a publishing house with my stuff.
Mhm.
And will I ever self-publish a book? Maybe. I have like some scribbles of some short story collection that I might just throw out there in the wind because I just don't really care if it sells or not. But will I ever commit like a novel or like one of my big poetry books? Like my next poetry book's like 310 pages. Like I ain't gonna self-publish that. That's a lot of work I put in. My short story collection is mostly something for fun. So I might just self-publish that. But I'll probably just publish it through Dead Reckoning like I always do. So but I feel like you should always write. Like I hate when they're like, "Oh, I don't have time to write." Like, yes, you do. You always have time to write. You could always go back and edit a page. You can't edit a blank page. So if you're gonna be a writer, be a fucking writer. Don't sit around. Don't lollygag. Outline your story. Write down what you have to say, and don't be as scared of the blank page. Writer block is a fucking myth. I can sit down and write anything I can sit down and write anytime I want. The biggest problem is just me sitting down and doing it.
Have you ever struggled with the identity of being a quote unquote writer? Like a time where you maybe felt like a little bit of that imposter syndrome, or I'm not a writer until X thing happens.
Yeah, I have a little bit. I still don't even look at myself as a writer. I mean, it's on my Instagram because, like, it gets you more attention, I guess. Like, I don't take social media very seriously. It's mostly just pictures of bullshit. But, I still don't think I'll ever be, probably will never really truly look at myself as a writer until I have a novel published. Because I feel like that's the title fight of writing. You know, anyone can do poetry, anyone can write some short stories, but if you sit down and write a novel, you're a fucking writer. I don't even care if it's good or not. If you sit down and write like 200 pages of a continuous story, damn man, you're an absolute fucking writer to me. And I haven't done that yet, and I feel like not until I finish my novel will I really consider myself a real writer. But even then, I'm still always going to be just Buck. Like I'm nobody special. Will I do this for the rest of my life? Yeah, probably. Do I also have, my military retirement's going to come in and help me keep the lights on? Yeah. So it's kind of a good buffer. I kind of crash and burn, but I'll never be an insurance salesman. So
Is that kind of the trajectory that you see yourself taking? Like trying to make that a sustainable career doing writing and just focusing on that once you get out?
yeah, that's kind of my whole plan because I'm coming. I didn't ever think I'd get out of the military, but the whole reason I am getting out of the military is one because I have options. If I didn't have options, I could easily make first sergeant or sergeant major if I wanted to. Like it wouldn't be hard. Like you just have to stay in. A great colonel once told me there's no trick to getting promoted. You just got to stay in, man. Like, but I have more passion in writing, and it makes me a better person, I believe. And I really just want to be a normal guy, and I don't want to do anything else. I think about writing all the time. I think about it nonstop. There's not a day or a moment goes by that I'm not thinking of the next line or the next part of a story that I'm trying to get out there. So I feel like if you're once you takes over your life that much, you don't have any choice but to be a writer. I can't stop it. I've tried to stop writing, it's never going to take. So at that point, you just kind of have to do it. I don't think I could ever work a normal job. I don't like waking up early. I don't like, being told what to do. And if I have the means and the funds to chase my dream, like might as well. Like one line from a movie I always think about is a movie called Up in the Air with George Clooney. He's sitting there and firing this dude because it's during like the recession time period where they're firing like everybody essentially. And he asks him, he's like, "How much money did they give you to give up your dreams?" He's like, $29,000. He's like, "You think it was worth it?" He's like, "Absolutely not." And that's my biggest fear in the world is to give up on my dreams. I'd rather crash and burn and be a homeless bum than give up my dreams.
I love that. And I really appreciate and respect how you've been able to find and like be called to this passion, but also still continue to pursue it while you're on active duty.
Yeah.
I have talked about this in so many episodes and beat this subject to death, but I have never felt like less creative than while I was in it because it feels like just there's this weight just kind of like pushing down on you all the time to kind of like prevent that by just like standardized processes and like there's just not free thinking that's promoted.
Yeah.
Have you struggled with that at all?
I did when I was a junior infantryman, when I was like, a private to like maybe probably wasn't until I was like a E5 until I really told anybody about it, because I was an infantryman. We don't have feelings. We don't like art, It wasn't until I
Right.
met like another dude, one of the guys in my sniper section. He's like, "Oh yeah, I went to art school." And I was like, "Really? For what?" He's like, "Photography." I was like, "Do you do photography still?" He's like, "Yeah, I do it all the time." And I was like, "Oh man, we can do that," like it was kind of like a dirty secret I kept, like I was in like some really weird porn, but my porn was like, fucking paintings and art and, poetry and shit like that, And it's not cool. It's hard to be like this hardcore NCO that has to like lead dudes in like gunfights and shit when you're like trying to talk to about poetry. But once I got over that stigmatism, I found that it made me a better leader once I could open up to guys. And yeah, I mean, every single one of my Joes bought my book and they all were like, "Damn, I didn't know you felt this way." I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker, I'm suffering too." Like, fucking welcome to the club, Like, and I feel like everybody should journal. I feel like everybody should be involved in the arts in some way, shape, or form because the world's a terrible, shitty place, and if you can't find happiness or beauty in it, then you're just gonna die. So,
Why do you think it made you a better leader?
made me more compassionate. Made me once you can open up and be on like a ground level with your soldiers. I feel like they're gonna trust you more. You're not just a robot. You're not just a man behind the uniform. They can see who you are as a person. And like once my guys stopped seeing me as fucking staff sergeant chucklefuck, they saw me as like, "Oh, fucking Buck, writer. He writes poetry and stuff. That's pretty awesome. He paints and does photography on the side." It's less intimidating. And if you take a passion in their lives, I mean, I can talk about leadership all day, like my personal leadership style, but like I feel like it's really simple to be a good leader. Just put your guys first and care about the problems, and then they'll follow you through the hell and back. And they saw me as not just a uniform, makes them listen better. Always helped me.
Was there a moment that clicked for you, or was it just something that was developed over time that you kind of gradually showed more of your interests and your kind of personality, I guess?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I became an NCO when I was 20 years old, and I probably had no business being in charge of anybody at 20 years old. So, I mean, it just kind of, I don't know, just like with anything, you're gonna learn how to be better at your job. And like the military is one of those hard things, especially once you start climbing the ranks. You have to see it more than a job, but you still not take it too seriously. It's like this whole weird like dance you have to do with being like an NCO, especially in the combat arms, especially in the infantry. I just kind of picked it up and I tried trial and error, saw what worked, saw what didn't work, and it's just a good happy balance. You sometimes you have to bring the hammer down. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more compassionate. Sometimes you have to tell a dude to shut the fuck up. Your problems aren't that fucking bad, man. Like it's being a leader, especially in the military at such a young age, is the hardest job to put on a man. But I think it's the most growth you can put into a single, human being ever in the world.
You said that there's things that didn't work. Any particular examples of trials or things that you have tried, different leadership styles that just have like totally crashed and burned?
Um, yeah, I was pretty violent NCO when I first became an NCO. I was a corporal. So being a corporal in like a reconnaissance platoon, you're kind of, especially back in that day. This was 2014, 2015 when I was a corporal. You were expected to perform, you're expected to be a bulldog. I was told by multiple NCOs that if I see somebody doing something wrong and you didn't fuck them up for it, I'm gonna fuck you up. So then I was like, all right, well, I gotta be an asshole. So then like that kind of became my personality, and I was like known as like the hard NCO, like, oh, don't deal with Corporal Buck, like he'll fuck you up there. I was like yelling all the time, and then like, but then I just grew up, like I got demoted a couple times, got in fist fights with some of my Joes, got in fist fights with my leadership, and then I just grew up, and I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. And then I just it made me a better leader, and I realized that it wasn't the right answer, and it never was the right answer. You're not always gonna be
Listen,
proud of what you did when you were in the military. And I'm not proud of everything. I'm not proud of the guy I was the whole time, but I also did it for going on 10 years now. I feel like if you sit back and tell everybody you were the best soldier in the world, then you're probably the biggest asshole in the world. I was not a good soldier. I was not the model soldier, but I could look back and I still have relationships with the dudes I serve with, and that's all that matters to me.
it's interesting that you pitch, maybe it's just the people and like the relationships with the people that you had in such a positive light, because earlier you made a comment about how your time in the service, your badges and awards or whatever, it just like doesn't mean shit to you. Where is the line drawn between those things, do you think?
Well, like I said earlier, it's like a good happy balance. Um, should you strive out to make accomplishments in the military? 100%. Should you strive to maybe go collect that jump wings, air assault wings, mountain badge, CIB? 100%. Like, I feel like, because like in the military, you wear your resume on your chest. So I feel like you have to accomplish something, but does it make you a bad NCO if you have nothing? No. It's just if you do it, great. If you make it your identity, you're a fucking idiot. The color of your hat, the tabs you got, and the freaking awards you've earned mean absolutely jack fuck once you hang it up. And the only thing that's ever gonna matter is when you get out and you hang that uniform up for the last time, if you can make a phone call to somebody you serve with and they answer the phone. That's it. That's all it's about. It's just a job. If you do it well, cool. If you're a bad soldier, cool. Do people like you and get along with you? Great.
Why is that so hard for people to separate?
Identity
Like just
crisis.
seeing it as a job.
I mean, well, one, it's an indoctrination process. It's designed to be that way. Most people, especially in the combat arms, come from impoverished areas. It's their first accomplishment ever in their life. The American society likes to put American service members up on a giant pedestal. You're paid pretty decently for a little bit of work you do. It's a lot of struggles. You get camaraderie through that, and everybody's going to shake your hand when you walk down the street in small town USA. So it's hard for people to let that go. It's hard for people to look at it then more than what it is. And then I don't think these things will ever leave you, but I'm definitely not going to walk around and say once a soldier, always a soldier, or once a sailor, always a sailor, or once a Marine, always a Marine, because it's not true. You know, it's you're gonna have to move on. If you don't adapt, you're going to die, which is contradictory of things I've said in the past. In my first book, I said, to establish roots is to die. And but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't contradict that. But I guess to establish roots in any set thing and die on that hill is kind of. I feel like you just have to have constant growth, and I don't see holding on to your military service as constant growth. I see it as staying in your ways, and it's really hard, especially with social media, especially in the veteran community, because social media is kind of curated to what the algorithm thinks you're gonna like. So if you like a couple military posts, then all you're gonna see on your feed is nods and guns and special operations and all this cool shit. And like reality, that's just separating, that's just bridging the gap farther and farther from you. And I've noticed a lot of dudes that get out, they just don't have hobbies. If your hobbies are guns and you like guns, cool. But I just don't see that as a hobby personally.
Yeah, some slight side commentary on building a social media following in 2023. Post a bunch of videos and NVGs and some air assault like paratroopers videos,
Yeah.
people jumping out of planes, and you've got 100,000 followers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, people really dig that stuff. But yeah, it's extraordinarily difficult because I know personally I tried to like really walk away from my service when I got out, and I'm interested to see if your feelings change over the coming years of like getting out and how that kind of transition process will be, and if you change your mind about that. I know I certainly did. I really didn't want to be like the vet bro and tried to like walk away from it and do that whole thing, but I found myself like here I am like hosting this podcast, like talking to military folks, hopefully about, I tell people, I didn't think that we would get too hung up on it, but there are some people I tell before we come on, I'm like, this is not a fucking reminiscing podcast. Like there's plenty of those shows, or you can just go like swap war stories and whatever, do that whole thing. But this is about kind of building your life outside of service, because I think
Yeah.
that it's not done enough.
Yeah,
It,
100%.
it's good to kind of like acknowledge where you came from, and especially joining very young when that's all like that's, and especially if you have like any sort of accomplishments while you're in, like that's what you've got to cling to.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Do I have plaques and, things hanging on my wall of like things I've done in my service? 100%. Am I proud of it? Yeah. But I'm just not gonna like go to some random motherfucker in a bar in New York City and be like, hey, so did you know I was a paratrooper? You know what that is? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. You gotta find a common ground with anybody. I'm not saying that being in the veteran community and being involved in other veteran organizations is one of the greatest things I've done, because I was very against it and I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't want to sit around and swap war stories. I didn't want to talk to other veterans just because I was tired of fucking hearing it. But I am involved in the PB Abate. I am really involved in PB Abate. It's probably the only veteran organization I'm really involved in. But because I've seen what it's done and I've seen how it helps people, and they do things in a different light that brings other hobbies into this community and shows them something else to work on. Like with book club, I'm super involved in book club. I do go to book club meetings all the time with them on virtual stuff. And all the books am I interested in? No. But when we talk about an interesting book and I get to like blab on for like, about what I like about books, and I get to show someone a different light of literature, I love that. And even when I get to see somebody who probably wouldn't be into books, but they're reading a book because it's on like military service and stuff like that, that's still a good thing. You should be involved in veteran communities. You should join the VFW. You should join the American Legion, because those things are around for a reason. You're going to have to stay plugged in the veteran community no matter what, because it was such a big pivotal point of our lives. Will I probably ever change my ways about how I look at it? Probably not. I think I was just in too long to really warp how I've changed things at this age of my life. But I'm a member of the VFW in Savannah, Georgia. I'm a member of PB Abate Book Club and a writer for Dead Reckoning Collective, and I think it's a good thing to do. And I think I helped get able to help some people with it.
From the people who have gotten out and seem to have really like taken hold in their life after service, one of the most common threads that I tend to see is some sense of ongoing community with other vets
Yeah.
around other things. Like you said, book club, writing, other activities. You're around other people that you kind of have a common background with. And a lot of different veteran service organizations kind of go about it different ways. But I tend to agree with what you're saying on the community driven exercises.
Yeah, and it's not. It doesn't have to be a veteran thing. I feel like everybody joined for some sense of service. Did I join because I wanted to serve my country? Not really. I was poor and I didn't really have a lot of options, and I was like, well, I guess going to war sounds like a really cool adventure. Getting in a gunfight might be badass. And that's kind of why I joined. But at the end of the day, like there is a sense of service behind it. Even if I didn't go in with that sense of service, I developed a sense of service while I was in when I became a leader and I was like responsible for other motherfuckers' lives. That's a massive thing to take on. You don't have to read a fucking Jocko book to understand the importance of fucking leadership. Do I think leadership books are lame? 100%. You shouldn't have a grown man trying to tell you how to be a leader. That shit's fucking weird. Go get involved in a club and like just be a leader. I think it's just the new generation of self help books, and I think that shit's absolutely dumb. But freaking, and if you can't get involved with a veteran organization, man, go help out at the dog shelter. You know how many veterans I meet at the dog shelter? Tons. You know how many veterans I meet just helping out at freaking, the homeless shelter? A lot more than you'd think. And I think those are the best veterans out there because they're the quiet service member, and that is a super proud thing to be. And I think people have taken or not really looked at how important those people are. It's all special operations, cool guy, this or that, fucking fog goon, whatever the fuck bullshit. And it's fucking lame because those people just want to take your money and run and then make fun of you. So don't fucking listen to those guys.
What do you think is the obsession about that? Is it just a lot of, and I mean, I would put myself in this category too. Like I had dreams of being that person at one point in my life too. Like
Oh, every guy has, it's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Other than being a fighter pilot, that's the coolest job in the military, and I want everybody to know that. If you want to know more about me, just read my books. You'll probably figure it out by then.
Right. Well, and that's the beauty of people that have and are open and publish their work, whether it be through a book, whether they write online, blog, whatever, is you really get to see an interesting part of people that you wouldn't otherwise. And kind of a little bit dangerous, and sometimes it's odd to think about all of your information and stuff being publicly available like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, kind of the nature of the game in today's social media world.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks because like the thing I probably hate the most about the veteran culture is how quick veterans are to attack other veterans. Like, there's nothing that pisses a veteran off more than seeing another veteran successful.
What
Like,
do you mean?
oh, dude, freaking! I'm not saying it's a bad thing. So there's hundreds of special forces businesses out there now, but every single one, every time like one of those businesses gets popular, nobody has a single good thing to say about the guy. Is that guy a bad guy? Yeah, probably. The things I've heard about him sound pretty fucking bad. I mean, I don't know a lot of true perfect service members in my life. And I know eventually, if I ever make it a little bit more popular, people are probably going to dig some skeletons out of my closet. But I'm like, fuck, man. Like, it's really surprising how, like, it's only the veterans that really want to be like, oh, yeah. Oh, this guy's, like, selling a coffee company. Like, Black Rifle Coffee is a great example. Everybody loved Black Rifle Coffee when they first came out. Everybody absolutely loved them. Do I drink their coffee? No, I'm cheap. I buy fucking like Maxwell House. Do I have a lot of friends that work there? Yeah, 100%. But ever since like a whiff of the air if something goes wrong at Black Rifle Coffee, it's over every meme page, over every veteran page, and it's like, yeah, fuck them. Black Rifle Coffee's stupid. They're dumb. And I was like, yeah, well, can you name another organization that employs that many veterans? No, you can't. Can you name an organization that hires that many veteran spouses? No, you can't. Can you name an organization that's probably brought as much light to veteran issues? No, you can't. But you're real quick to try to get your VA rating through Hunter 7, even though Black Rifle Coffee gets a lot of money through them. You're real quick to fucking say a lot of things about them, but you've probably benefited from them being a little bit more popular and bringing up veteran issues. Veterans are cunts. They're just real bastards. And I kind of fucking hate it. And I really wish we would just help each other out a little bit more. And I've been guilty of it. Do I kind of fucking go down the tangent on some things sometimes and talk shit about other veterans? Yeah. Am I right for it? No. Am I perfect? No. I'm just a fucking writer. I'm not a fucking priest. So, but I'll tell you what, if any of my guys ever need something, anybody I ever served with, I will fucking help them out no matter what. Because I can't save everybody, but I can help the dudes I care about.
I think that it is, like you said, anything that goes wrong and it's very quick to like jump down their throats. I do admire what those guys have built and are putting together. I really hope that in like the coming decade, you were talking about the veteran riding community being at kind of a turning point. What I hope we're at the turning point for as kind of like a community is like doing some bigger things that are beyond coffee and like t-shirt companies and like make a little bit of a bigger impact. And and that's not to bag on Black Rifle, like
Yeah, it's not like.
and especially they just went
Well, you
public,
got to
like
call a
they're
spade
a
a
great
spade.
company.
Yeah.
But like let's get out there and like make some wakes and other things.
Yeah.
And I hope that we can pour gas on the fire for some of other veteran started businesses and see some people make it big.
Yeah, and I want that too. Do I see it actually ever happening? Probably not. Just because successful veterans in other ventures and avenues don't really bring up their service too much. I don't know if that's by design or, it just helps them out professionally. But I mean, one thing, t-shirts are a pretty profitable fucking business. You can buy and print a t-shirt for $3 and then turn around and sell that motherfucker for $30. I know this because I started a business. And I know what profit margins and fucking marketing and all this other dumb shit I didn't understand earlier about. So and coffee beans are kind of cheap to buy. They're pretty roasters pretty cheap to buy. It's a profit margins are fucking huge. And I've seen other veteran companies like One More Wave, great company, makes surfboards, gets veterans out there surfing. Are they going to make an absolute shit ton of money? Probably not. But can you at least make a living doing it? Yeah, probably. Vet Rep Theater, really great veteran organization. I work with them a lot. They're involved in like theater with veteran arts. Are they going to be as successful as Black Rifle Coffee? God, I wish they would. Is it going to happen? No, because it's marketing and fucking sales and shit I don't even understand. I just don't. I don't think we'll ever have a big veteran voice come from like the massive entertainment department that is out there. Adam Driver's probably never going to come out and like be on Black Rifle Coffee's fucking social media or anything like that, and like trying to get. I mean, he does donate a lot of money to like helping veterans get in like acting and stuff like that. But he's ever going to publicly out there and like go on an interview and say it? Probably not. It's just not cool. The American people don't give a shit anymore. One, so
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting to see the changing face of media, like probably the biggest maybe military person, Jocko, you mentioned him earlier or whatever. But it's funny that all of that like military talk is like followed by so many non-military people.
yeah.
Like that it's like kind of almost a completely different audience than what you would think it would be.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like I don't explain. I can't say it in a politically correct way. So I'll just fucking send it. Honestly, it's just a bunch of dudes that really have inadequate feelings about themselves and feel like if they can get kind of involved in a tough culture, that it'll make them tough, and they don't realize that they could just be tough by probably being a good family man and going out and doing some hard labor. And is that for everybody? No. Do I think you need to pay a dude $2,000 to go through a weekend course and get hazed to be a man? Probably fucking not. That's kind of weird to me. Maybe just go help out your local Boy Scout troop or something, man. I don't know.
Well, I think it becomes more what I think people don't realize is you don't gain respect by talking about something, you get it by doing something. And I think that
Yeah.
that's I have a ton of respect for what Jocko's built and like
Oh yeah.
this crazy media empire, and it's because he's done that thing already. He was already living those things, and then there are a lot of people that kind of see like, oh, maybe if I just like start talking about all these things and saying all these things, then I will kind of become that. And I get the whole line of thinking about like kind of bring that, if you say it, you'll become it sort of idea,
Yeah.
but say it to yourself or be doing it on your own and then kind of come back and talk about it.
Yeah. And even if like I don't personally like or give a shit what they're doing, can I say that they've probably brought a little bit more light to at least one person about veteran issues? 100%. And that's a good thing. I don't have to like everything for it to be a good thing. I'm not probably a great judge of character on stuff. So I don't think a lot of people should really listen to much of what I have to say. Buy my books, and if you like them, cool. But I'm not a fucking philosopher, and I'm not a self-help guy.
You were mentioning before we started recording to me that you have a couple other projects in the works right now. I'd love to hear about. You've mentioned a novel, you've mentioned another poetry book. What all are you working on? And we also got to talk about Dirtbag too.
Yeah. Well, I was going to see. I mean, I could. We could either do this a me podcast, or I could have my partner come on and do Dirtbag later down the road. But I'll bring it up because I like Dirtbag's obviously a massive passion for me. But
Yeah,
yeah, so yeah, whatever. I'll just fucking let it ride. Levi's the guy who runs Dirtbag Magazine with me. Me and him met at a PB Abate event. Really talented writer, really talented guy, really talented photographer, and he just kind of had the same dream I did. I was kind of an independent journalist for a while. I was writing articles here and there, but I was finding that I couldn't really get a lot of articles published other than like veteran media outlets, which are very confined to certain subjects. You basically have to write some clickbait articles about things you don't really give a shit about. Like, what's your opinion on this military movie? Like this unknown veteran, which I've written some of those articles, I will say, but you gotta make some money every now and then. But the way I saw it is that I can either complain about it or do something about it. So, in a fit of spite and anger, I learned how to build a website, filed for an LLC, and started my own magazine called Dirtbag Magazine. And we're not very active because it's ran by two people. But the things we do bring to the table, when we do something, we're going to do it all the way. We are working right now to get two journalists into Syria right now, and I'm not going to say their names or anything like that because I don't want them to get like murdered. But we are going to probably have two journalists working independently, and we're going to get them some press passes and get them some paperwork to get into Syria to do some war corresponding. We personally are working on trying to get Antarctica in January 2024 to cover the ethics of Antarctica tourism. And we're probably going to write some other articles like music based. That's what we're real big love is music. But we're basically just going to do stuff that no one else is going to do, and we're going to do it with half the funding that anyone else is going to do. Because right now, me and Levi self fund this thing. We make absolutely zero profit off this whole business, and we're going to continue to keep it that way because I feel like it's going to make it a lot more authentic. We're essentially trying to be a mixture between Vice News and Rolling Stone. We're going to cover bands that you're not going to know about, and we're going to go places you probably never thought to go, and we're just going to tell a story. We're eventually going to probably make some documentaries.
you said at the beginning of starting to talk about it that you guys both had the same dream. What is that?
To be an artist that's not a veteran artist, but to just be an artist. Levi also is a veteran. He's also on active duty. He's probably the few 23-year-old Marines I know with a combat action ribbon. And you know what? Rarely ever talks about it. He's a photographer, and he's a very talented photographer. And when I met him, I knew we clicked on a really personal level. I knew he believed the same things I did, that to make a bigger impact in the world is to not be a veteran artist, but to be an artist who just so happens to be a veteran. And that's what we're bringing to the table.
I really like that. Well, and that's kind of been an underlying theme in a lot of the things that you're talking about today is this whole idea of just producing things and not riding on past actions. And because it, at the end of the day, doesn't really mean anything. And it can be good in and of itself, not just, oh, it's good for being a veteran or whatever.
Yeah, because I turned out when Dirtbag first came out, I turned down a lot of articles, and I still turn down a lot of articles I get because I'm not going to publish a veteran article. If you want to write veteran articles, you can go write for Havoc Journal, Lethal Minds, Black Rifle Coffee. There's tons of outlets out there that will probably make you more money. But if you want to be anybody and you want to push the boundaries and go do something worthwhile and tell an actual story, then you could come write for Dirtbag. We won't pay you a lot, but we'll give you something, I guess. We don't have a lot of money. I'll say that again. We do not have a lot of money.
You'll get the joy and pleasure of being published, and that'll be about it.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool side project for me and Levi. And we do have some really big name writers who are involved with it, especially with our second issue that's coming out in February. Hopefully it comes out in February. We're really bad. We're not really organized, so it kind of makes it fun. But yeah, and I've seen a lot of like big name veteran writers really take to this because they're like, dude, I'm so fucking tired of writing about military stuff. I can't do it anymore. So the culture is changing, especially in the veteran artist world. And I want to be able to offer an opportunity for anyone to come write about whatever the hell they want. And you might not get published by a big magazine, but we will help you build a resume. We're not in place, but we're a stepping stone, hopefully to somewhere bigger.
I'll be sure to include links to that in the show notes, as well as a couple other links to your books and stuff.
Yeah. But in the day, I'm probably going to make my money off writing. So just writing books because I like writing books and I'm never gonna stop being a writer. I do have a new book coming out this year, so that'll be good. I might have two out this year. We're just gonna see how it goes. It's how the writing world is.
See how much writing you get done on your after your surgery.
Well, the problem with me is that like I work on multiple projects at one time. Because it's how my brain works. I usually write at least two books at the same time. So I was already working on Demons of the Taillights when I was working on Soberman's Thoughts. And I started working on short story collection really heavily when I was working on Soberman's Thoughts. My first short story I wrote when Soberman's Thoughts wasn't even finished, and I wanted to make it a collection. I'm taking my time with the collection because it's not my main project. It's not my main focus. It's just something I work on in the background. When I'm tired of working on my novel, which I'm working on, I'll go and work on, my short stories. It's a good little break, and it keeps the gears winding, and it makes me a better writer. I feel like. But yeah, Demons of the Taillights will be out this year. It'll be something different. It'll be there are some war poems in there for you guys that fucking like that shit. So you could feel good about that. uh, but there are I've written some original songs in there. I have some original artwork in there. It's gonna be something different, and I hope that people enjoy it for what it actually is and see it for what it is, and not just think it's Soberman's Thoughts Part 2. So
I have a couple closing questions for you
yeah,
today. The first two come from Soberman's Thoughts, and I wanted to just kind of ask you to expand on them a little bit more. The first one is a line, or the first two lines of A Sober Man's Thoughts. I was too busy living the life to ever actually write it. And it got me wondering and thinking about what we should be optimizing for. Should we be optimizing to live or to document? And because I think that you've probably thought a little bit about that.
yeah. That's a line I remember writing actually. So you're good on that one. No. So basically, Soberman's Thoughts. I chose it for the title for a certain reason because even if Soberman's Thoughts didn't have a lot of thought behind why it came out, I still wanted to have a message behind it all. And obviously, it's a really personal book for me. I dedicated it to my fiance who passed away back in 2014. But yeah, basically with that line, I really wanted people to stop. And what I meant with that is I was too busy living my life to actually ever write it because I was just living it. I was living in the moment. I didn't think past the next day, let alone the next sentence. I wrote most of this stuff. I would scribble a couple lines down and it would go in my phone or like go in a notepad somewhere, and I just keep living life. It was very rare for me to sit down and actually stop what I'm never gonna stop and like say like hold on man, let me write this down real quick. Like, because I'm not gonna do that. I'd rather go out and experience life than sit in my house all day and write. Do I have to do that? 100%. It's become a job now. I'm gonna have to sit down and write. But I feel like the only thing to make anybody better from any trauma is to actually go out there and experience life to the fullest. I've talked to college classes before where they asked me, "What do you think the best thing to be a writer is?" And I told them to drop out of college and go out and live a story. Because if you want to write a story, you have to live a story first. Every story ever written, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, is obviously based off of somebody's life, especially fiction. There's more truth in fiction than anything else, obviously, but it has some tangibility in there. And if you really want to write a great story, you have to first go out there and experience it, because people are going to tell if you're full of shit, and that's kind of what that line really means to me.
The second one is another line from Soberman's Thoughts. No solution was ever found in the bottle of self-pity. You kind of take that and expand on it a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. So obviously after my fiance passing away, it really fucked me up. Fucking, it's still something I deal with to this day. It's a hard thing to go through when you're 20 years old. It's a really hard thing to go through. It's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever go through in your entire life. It's definitely harder than going to war. It's definitely harder than killing a man. It's having something that you love so much that it's ripped away from you and you can't change it. So I had a choice. I was either going to sit down and suffer for the rest of my life and be depressed about it, or I was going to do something about it, which is kind of a big thing about who I am. If there's a problem and I can physically solve it, I'm going to try to solve it. And there's few problems out there that you can't solve. One of them, you can't bring the dead back, but you can live a life worth two people. So I don't think anything of your problems are ever going to be solved by just sitting around and wallowing about them. You could change your life in a single day by changing the way you live it.
The last question, you mentioned in another interview that your writing process typically revolves around writing the first chapter and then writing the last chapter and then filling the ends in between. If you were to give us some commentary on the first chapter of your life and the last chapter of it, what do you think that you would say?
Well, my first chapter in my life is probably, your upbringing. I feel like people are a product of the environment they grew up in. Departed taught me that. Stole that line from there. And but you're always going to be who you are when you were a child. If you're interested in books and you're interested in art, you're probably going to be interested in that when you're an adult. But I feel like I hate to say this because I've heard it said before and I didn't like it then, but it does have some bit of truth in it. If you go through some trauma when you're a young adult or a kid, I feel like it really does make you a better person because you're going to go through trauma any time in your life. It's going to happen. You're going to lose people. Things are going to happen to you. But if you do it young enough in an early age, it can really make you a better person and make you self-reflect and really just be more compassionate as a human being. I don't know the way or how it's ever going to take you, but it can make you. I didn't have the best childhood. I didn't have the easiest upbringing. I didn't The chips were stacked against me from day one, but I made the best out of it no matter what. And now I'm on fucking podcasts talking about my weird, contorted ideas of how I look at life. In the last chapter of my life, I'll probably be just an old man who writes shitty poetry books. I don't know. Freaking, I don't really care. If I can, I don't know if I'll ever get married. I don't know if I'll ever have kids, but I do know that I'll leave behind at least a dozen books for people to read, and that's okay with me.
Awesome. Buck, I really appreciate you sharing and coming on and chatting with me today.
Yeah, no
The
worries.
last and actual the last final question, actually, not a personal one though. How can myself and or anybody listening be useful to you?
Be useful to me, buy my books, please. We're good, please. Buy my books, and then most importantly, buy a couple books out there. You can buy Eddie Black's books. They're sold wherever books are really sold. Buy Douglas Hoover's books. Support Dead Reckoning Collective because they keep the lights on. Support Amy Sexauer. She's a really talented author. Support any of the authors at Dead Reckoning Collective. And obviously support this podcast and support any veteran artist you can find. And then just go be a good human being. And then we'll be okay. Oh, and Dirtbag
Awesome.
Mag. Okay.
Oh, and Dirtbag. Awesome. Man, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries, bro.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Your listenership helps me better educate people like you and the rest of our nation's military, both past and present, on building a successful life outside of military service. If you're looking for more ways the top vets are leading more effective lifestyles, building businesses, and using the resources designed specifically for you, press here for a selection of some of the best clips. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, and I will be talking with you soon.